Okay, I'm Suzanne Tidkemeyer. I used to write for Pathos for almost 10 years, a column called No Longer Quivering that has to do with fundamentalist religions. Now I do a variety of things, and one of the things I do is I talk about Costa Rica. So this is going to be a Costa Rica video. I'm tempted to name this Costa Rica, reason number 5,200,000 whatever to move here from the US. I was going to do a video about Costa Rica today because Wednesdays is going to be Costa Rica Day here. I wanted to do one of reasons to move to Costa Rica, and yesterday I was crawling YouTube looking at people's videos on my feeds, and an attorney I follow had a what to do when you get swatted in the US. And I wanted to kind of play around with that originally. I was going to do a thing on that because moving to Costa Rica, you're not going to get swatted. There's so many reasons to move here. And the lack of swatting might be one of them, one of many, particularly when there's all this going on. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how to support yourself. But I also am going to say with the swatting, it would be like this. Somebody trying to swat you, calling the police department here. Hello, I'd like to report a crime. Police here. Hola, policia, tamarindo. I want to report that someone is stabbing somebody and that somebody else is kicking puppies and they're torturing monkeys and all kinds of stuff. Their name is Joe Blow, and they live in Tamarindo. Can you help me with this? Uh, I'm supposed to be the police. Espanol? No? No, no Espanol? Muy mal, muy mal. No, no comprende. Hasta luego. The other thing with Costa Rica that makes that kind of funny is that, and is another cultural thing you may have a hard time understanding, besides the fact that there's no chance of you getting swatted here, and the police seem to be kind of inept. I'm just going to say that. They do some things, but as far as calling and screeching and having them show up and arrest this person or throw this person in jail, that is a little more problematic here. But like I've said, crime here is almost entirely property crime and usually minor. I've had a few things lifted here, real minor stuff like a inexpensive leaf blower, just a couple things like that. It's a place of crime of opportunity, like you don't leave your car unlocked or your cell phone sitting out where anybody can just grab it on the beach. It's kind of nice to be in a place where crime is minimal compared to the US. The other thing is, it's funny about that, before I get to what I really wanted to talk about today, is the fact that asking for directions, there are no such thing as real street addresses here. You can rent a post office box at the local station, and there aren't that many post offices, so there's kind of fierce competition for those things too. So a lot of people, Americans here, will get like general delivery mail because they can't find a box, which makes it really interesting because if somebody has to deliver something to your house or you're asking for directions, that can be crazy. It can be like, "Hey, buddy, I need directions to the Monkey Farms and Monkey Brand zip lining." Okay, local person, local gringo. Well, go down the main road and then you go to where the horse died 3 years ago. The horse where the horse died, and you hang a left. And you go past the guy who makes the good cheese in his house. You go past his house. You're going to come to a river. Go through the river, go up onto the dirt road, and there's going to be a lady who's going to want a mill to cross the road in front of her house. So you give her your mill, And then you're going to circle around and turn when you see the place where you can buy the seashells. So that's like super confusing. Instead of saying, okay, go so far, hang a left, go so far, hang a right. That's the way directions run here, and the fact that there are no street addresses. I am lucky. I am not too far from the airport and not too far from a house that you'll repute. And I can use those two things to tell people to navigate instead of giving them my official address, which is meaningless. It's so many meters south, so many meters east. That just puts you in the general for direction. It doesn't even put you exactly there. So that is one of those things you have to get used to. You have to get used to the differences in culture here. I talk about this all the time with Costa Rica. Differences in culture can trip you up. I see so many people move here. About 80% of the people that move here from the States stay around 2 years and they turn around and go back. They can't accept the culture. If you cannot tolerate this very low stress, laid back culture where somebody's saying, well, turn where the horse died 3 years ago, then you shouldn't probably come. But if you're one of those people where the culture is not going to bother you, you're going to get a kick out of it because it's so incredibly different. We came from the Northern Virginia, D.C. area where it's like go, 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 and there's everything in the world to buy and everything, to this laid back backwater. Going to KFC and McDonald's is a treat that we only get when we go to a big city. So many things that were essential to us then are just treats now when we go to the big city here because you can get big city things in San Jose and some of them in Liberia in various places. But if you absolutely must be able to run and buy new towels immediately within 10 minutes, then this is not the place for you. But I'm going to talk about one of the bigger reasons to move here. We didn't discover this right away. We discovered it on our first scouting visit here, not our first vacation, but we first came here and said, hey, let's look around and think about moving here. Because we knew we wanted to leave the Northern Virginia go, 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 hyper stress culture. We knew we wanted to just do away with that nonsense. So we came here and we were talking to a nice older gentleman named Daniel who was from California. I think he told me he used to work for Pacific Gas and Electric, and so he had a pretty good pension coming in. He gave us the best advice that I'm about to pass on to you for moving to Costa Rica. A good reason to move to Costa Rica. Your investments. I remember bitching, moaning, and griping in 1990 when I bought my house in Virginia. When we bought our house, griping that we were only getting 10% on our CDs at the bank. Griping about that. Since that time, CD rates have gone up and gone down, and so different investments. And we were just at the bank renewing investments this morning, and we're getting close to 9% again. We first started looking at moving here. Somebody said it was 7%, but we actually got 9% on some of our money. And the rates have gone up and down a little bit since. COVID pretty much put a damper on CD rates here. But this morning we got close to 9%, and we might get 9% with our next one that we're going to roll over. Do you know what they're getting in the States on CDs? It's not even close to 1%. The last time I checked, it's pathetic. And with everything going on in the U.S., everything going on bad with the money, it makes this place a lot better option for everybody, especially if you're like us and you're coming from a go, go, go society where prices were insane. I mean, the DC area where we lived is considered one of the highest cost of living areas in the entire country. So we went from this extremely high cost of living area to this lesser cost of living area. I'm not going to say Costa Rica is cheap, unfortunately, like a lot of people say. Come here, it's real cheap. Well, it really depends upon where you're living here. Where we first arrived in Copa de Dota, which is a full hour south of San Jose, the big city, you could rent a house for $150, $200 easily. A two-bedroom house. But there wasn't much there. You were in the mountains. You had to ride the bus an hour to go to San Jose to shop. But that wasn't so bad after all. But you have to keep that in mind. I live now in Tamarindo. I live near Playa Grande. In that greater Tamarindo area, if I were a crow, I could fly a mile and a half to Grande from here. Unfortunately, there's a swamp and a bunch of other stuff between us, so we have like a 10-minute drive around to get to Grande from the house. So we hit on this house was a bargain. It's a large piece of property with a guest house, a about a 3,500 square foot house, and a giant tiled patio that's lined with teak on the top. We lucked out. This was a beach house for a couple that were lawyers. This was their family beach house. They wanted to sell it after 10 years. It had been on the market for a year or so because that's the only bad thing is properties do usually move really slowly here. So we got it at a discount price. We got it for $160,000. Comparable properties in our area at the time were selling for $250,000 to $300,000. So we got a bargain. Now we had to put some work into it because there were some things that definitely needed upgrading, and we're constantly upgrading things here. And we put in a huge pool and a hot tub. And likely a sauna here very shortly. And I'm going to redo the kitchen. That's the next thing is the kitchen remodel. But there are also their bargains to be had. But here's what's happened since COVID is more and more Americans are moving here. Property that had sat on the market 3 years. A house I looked at that I called it the Italian Castle because it was sitting overlooking the Pacific. You could see the Pacific from three sides. Sitting on top of a mountain. Originally listed for close to $400,000, ended up moving at $100,000. Beautiful place, over 4,000 square feet. The master bedroom was close to 2,000. That went really low, and it went like that. So everything since COVID has hit, prices have doubled, and they're climbing to triple now. So I would say if you are considering moving to Costa Rica to retire, do it now. Don't do it later because prices are just going to climb. On my way to the bank this morning, I noticed there were signs up for 3 new gringo kind of subdivisions. 3 new gated subdivisions. And before I go, I have to tell you a funny gated subdivision story. There is a subdivision, they put up the main gate for it just maybe 3 or 4 months ago. They put the name of the subdivision on the side. Here's where this is funny. Well, they haven't sold house 1. They have pictures of the houses they're going to put up. The name of the subdivision translates loosely, I've been told, in slang for other Spanish countries as a lady's lady parts, but in a rude way, like we may say pussycat. It translates as that. So every time I drive by this place, I just laugh because I have a feeling that I know that very few people are going to be buying there are going to know that their subdivision is named for rude lady parts. Rude names for lady parts. So I've laughed so hard about that. You really have to be careful here when you're buying property because most real estate agents are going to push you to buy in a gated gringo community for a place that has maybe $500 to $1,000 HOA fees. They're not going to want to show you places like ours that don't come with quite so many restrictions and things. They're going to push you to the stuff they think they can get you to buy. Our very first visit to Tamarindo, I spent a very frustrating afternoon with a real estate agent that has since died. But he was insisting we buy a $500,000 property that had like 8 cabinas and a pool and all kinds of stuff to run a bed and breakfast. Or we buy this 2-story property that had 2 apartments in it that was huge and was luxury, was gringo. There was nothing wrong with either property, but guess what? I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to be chasing down money. I don't want to be hustling. I don't want any of that. That's why we have the CDs. We're making enough money from our CDs to live comfortably without touching any kind of retirement whatsoever. And that is the true value of here. If you move here, you need to bank with one of two national banks that are sponsored by the government. There's Banco Nacional, where we bank. There is Banco Costa Rica. Those two have like what we have in the States with the FDIC, where they will guarantee your money up to a certain thing. They have something similar to that. So you're not going to lose money. Now, some of the private banks, there are a couple that are decent to deal with. One of those is going to be Scotiabank because they have branches in Canada, they have branches here, they have branches other places, so they're pretty stable. I also think that the BAC is also pretty stable. They're huge. They may offer you slightly better rates on your CDs, but they're not going to have the guarantee that you're going to get at Banco Costa Rica and Banco Nacional. So you have to be careful when you come here for those things. And if you sign up to, you first will have to get a bank account. Then you'll have to prove that you're not muling your money from some drug industry. You're not laundering money Walter White style. Usually what you'll have to do with the bank is provide copies of a couple of years of bank statements, statements at whatever brokerage you might use, copies of your income tax statements. Prove to them where your money is coming in from, what kind of money you have, that you're not, like I said, you're not Walter White. And that's you're usually golden. Once you've done that, you set up your account, you've proved to them you're not a drug kingpin. They'll let you move money back and forth between the States and here. It's pretty easy. It takes about 3 days to do an international wire transfer once you have all the information on the bank's I've forgotten what they call it here. It's a wire transfer number that they have. And then you have your state's wire transfer number. And that's also how you're going to pay for things here, some things. And you're going to pay for importing your goods, importing your vehicle. You're going to have to set up a bank account so you can do wire transfers around. You're going to have to pay that up front when you go to move your stuff here to the places in the States even. They're going to require a wire transfer in for their amount of what they're getting. So it's important to have a bank account here, to have a bank account in the States that will allow you to do an easy transfer of funds. Because if you don't, it's going to be nothing but headaches. And one of the other things that they do at the bank is they decide, based upon how much money you have here, there, and everywhere, how much money that you're going to be legally allowed to import every month, say for your supporting yourself. We were lucky. We did this and they gave us a rather large amount. And we've been able to move money in for investments with that not being considered any part of that. I know some people who live here who are gringos who went about this the wrong way and aren't allowed to import much money, that are living on their credit cards. Don't be like that. Don't be like them. The best way to go about this is to either have a Tico or a gringo friend that has an account at one of these places that can vouch for you. Because when we got our account, we had to have our landlord in Copay write a letter saying, yes, I know these people. They're working at the local school. They're helping teach. They're not drug runners or whatever they were looking for. And that opens doors. If you could have somebody to help you when you first get here. I swear I thought about opening a business where all I do is take around newbies and help them establish themselves, because it can be a pain in the butt if you don't know what you're doing. And every place is going to require different stuff. And nobody is going to tell you it is worth your while to go to an attorney and pay money to set up a corporation. If you set up a corporation, it just makes getting electric, getting water, getting all of that simpler. It makes buying a house simpler. It even makes things like buying cars simpler. If you are a corporation, everything you own is owned in the corporation. And that protects you also in against the possibility of lawsuits because you own nothing personally, but your corporation owns everything. It's the way to go here. It really is. But at the same time, ask around in the gringo community who a good lawyer is because there are those firms, I'm not going to mention any names, that thrive on gringo ignorance that you'll go to and say, hey, I need to set up a will because if you own property here, you need to have a Costa Rican will, you need to have an American will, and nobody will tell you this. So if you go to a gringo lawyer for this is one of the scammy ones. I've seen them charge people up to $5,000 for that. We have one. We didn't pay anything near that. We paid like $400 or $500, I think, for our Costa Rican will. You can get them done cheaply. Um, and I know people who've paid 5,000. It just really depends. And they tell me, oh, but they gave it to me in this nice leather binder and blah, blah, blah. I was like, is that really necessary? So there are those firms that relentlessly advertise that that's what they do. They will take care of it all for you, but they're going to charge you beyond a pretty pity. Now, maybe you're a feckless billionaire and you don't care about that. You don't want to think about that. You just like, I just want it done. Go for it. They will do that. They will do that, particularly if you need to become a resident and you decide to file for residency. You could do that and pay these guys. They'll cough up every document you need. They'll even have your American documents apostilled and translated by a certified translator to pass the government here. So these places do serve a purpose. But if you're like us and you don't like overpaying for anything, shop around. Ask in the expat community. And that goes for real estate offices, realtors. I'm going to throw a little piece of crazy at you. You don't have to have any kind of training to be a real estate professional. You don't even have to have a license. You don't have to take the training and the tests that you have to take in the US. You can just hang out your shingle and start doing it. Which to me is a little crazy, but people do it. So always make sure to get recommendations for everything. Get a recommendation for what clinic everybody goes to, because that can make a huge difference. Get recommendations for hospitals. Like I said, I had my own little hospital experience in March where I was taken to not the nicest one. I wasn't taken to the one that I'd been to before, which is the Hospital Metropolitano, which I cannot say enough good things about. I was taken to one of the others, and it was hot, crazy mess. It did not go well. I was just telling the realtor, I'm the realtor, shoot, my banker. I had 104, 105 fever, and I'd lost my mind. And I was begging in Spanish for water and various things and wasn't being heard. So it's very important when you get here to map this stuff out and to find out who you're using. Find somebody you know here that is trustworthy. Don't ask the feckless billionaire, because the feckless billionaire may steer you wrong. He may say, oh, this is the greatest thing that was ever. And you'll find out later that that person has just been done and gone about everything the wrong way. I got horror stories I could tell about purchases of land, purchases of houses, all sorts of things. I think the most shocking one for me was the lady that wrote the Happier Than a Billionaire book, Nadine. I can't think of her last name. Bought a piece of property beachside. I want to say it was in Potrero. Don't quote me on that. To build a house or Airbnb or something like that on it, and didn't have water rights, I've been told. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. A million ways to fleece a gringo. So you have to learn the culture and you have to be careful. Those are the two things. If you do those two things, life here is way better than it was in the States. At least the pace of life is much slower and a lot more just pura vida. So that's what they say about everything. Pura vida. Pura vida. Okay, I'm going to go. I'm Suzanne Tinkemeyer. Like I said, I used to write for a living. Now I am working on several different projects at the same time, including a book about moving to Costa Rica where I outline all this stuff. But once a week, I am going to talk about moving to Costa Rica, where there's no swatting and the banks are an interesting place to deal with. Um, so if you could hit like, subscribe, click the bell notifications, and you see my Costa Rica videos come up, I'll tell you all about moving here. These are just my opinions and experiences, mostly just my experiences from having lived here now over 5 years. Okay, pura vida.